Lakota wichasha num upi. Machpia la wa'u. Machpia ki ha aka iblatake na heha iwanka imachu. Wig munke tiopa iachlate amao. Ho na trungash la shakbeki ha yankapi. Makaki choka amao pina heha changleshka wakama ha dakuku washteki mapazopi. Dagnishnecha ogachnich pichecha ha wakaya wawayan ke dakuki wakbazo. Dueki iu hasloyakta iechecha ash iwo lake nihimichia. Duenishnecha wicha chemalapishnecha slowayalo.
In 1930, a poet named John G. Neihardt was looking for old Lakota men who were alive before the white man came to their lands and took part in the messianic events that led to the tragic massacre at Wounded Knee. John had heard of just such a man named Black Elk, or Hehakasapa, but he was warned that this Black Elk was a very peculiar man and that he may not want to speak to him. But ignoring these warnings, John and his son Sigurd tracked the man down, and as they were approaching his home, they saw in the distance an ominous figure of a very old, nearly blind man standing in the shade. And both John and his son had the distinct impression that somehow Black Elk was expecting them. Through an interpreter, John told Black Elk that he wanted to learn about the old times, and that seemed to satisfy him. But then Black Elk sat down and stared at the ground, and things got awkward because he seemed to forget everyone else. But after a good long while, Black Elk looked up and spoke back in Lakota, saying this: "As I sit here, I can feel in this man beside me a strong desire to learn the things of the other world. He has been sent to learn what I know, and I will teach him." What Black Elk told of next was a 12-day-long vision that he got at the age of 9 years old, and he believed was given to him by the 6 grandfathers. And the book that resulted, Black Elk Speaks, has for nearly a century cut deep into the hearts of readers who want something more than a consumerist nightmare and something way less than some spiritual insight that's dogmatic or imperialistic. Admittedly, I came to this subject because of my extreme interest in UFOs. And if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'll say this, that there are UFO researchers that suggest that many of the contact experiences people have had with spiritual or holy beings across history could have something to do or related with the UFO phenomenon. Am I saying that I'm making a UFO video or that I'm suggesting what Black Elk saw was aliens? No. But I feel it would be a disservice to not say that in this field, indigenous peoples are of high interest. But this interest, in my opinion, is only skin deep. It doesn't ever go beyond speculation or looking at petroglyphs. I want to actually look at a real example of an American Indian's account of being in contact with some sort of spiritual beings and treat it with the attitude of the open-minded skeptic and present corroborative evidence and testimony to his experiences. Black Elk's vision may be difficult for Westerners to accept or even entertain because of the objectifying and dualistic ideologies that we've gotten ourselves used to. To us Westerners, things are or they aren't. But if you read Black Elk's account, you find out very quickly that the Lakota worldview was very different indeed. It's important to note here that Black Elk had many visions throughout his lifetime, so the Great Vision wasn't just some fluke, and these visions began at a very young age. At just 4 years old, Black Elk notes that as he was playing, he would, quote, hear a voice singing now and then, but did not catch it very well then. Then at the age of 5, just as he had learned to ride a horse, he says this, my father made me some bows and arrows. This was in the spring. I was out in the woods trying to get a bird, and just as I was going into the woods, there was a thunderstorm coming, and I heard a voice over there. This was not a dream. It actually happened. I saw 2 men coming out of a cloud with spears. As I was looking up to that, there was a kingbird sitting there, and these 2 men were coming toward me, singing the sacred song, and that bird told me to listen. The kingbird said, look, the clouds all over are one-sided. A voice is calling you. I looked up, and the 2 men were coming down, singing, behold, a sacred voice is calling you. All over the sky, a sacred voice is calling. I stood gazing at them, and they were coming from the north. Then they started towards the west and were geese. This vision lasted about 20 minutes. So to put this in broader cultural context when it comes to visions, it is said that young Lakota men had to cry for a vision, hamble chiapi, as a rite of passage. They had to fast for several days, purify themselves in a sweat lodge, and isolate themselves in the wilderness, naked and humble before the spirits. But only the worthy would actually have a vision. You can see another example of this in the book Lame Deer, Seeker of Visions, an incredible book about another Lakota man. But it wasn't actually unusual for a young man to have visions before this formal one. There's also the concept of the dreamer, where people would dream of different animals, or in the Lakota's words, beings. And these dreams would foreshadow their lives and give them deep meaning. And in Black Elk's specific case, he was a thunder dreamer and was being visited by thunder beings. And in the Lakota culture, the thunder dreamer had to enact upon himself and the people different rituals and ceremonies that would harmonize them with the spirits. A crucial thing to note before we begin is that in Lakota religion, they emphasize the sacredness or wakha of everything. All things have sentience and sacredness. And an underlying theme with all of this is the sacredness of the 4 directions or 4 quarters of the universe, which are symbolized by the 6 grandfathers: north, south, east, west, the sky, and the earth. But all of these beings and spirits come together into one called Wakhan Tanka, which is the great incomprehensibility or great mysteriousness. So before we begin, we have a few things to keep in mind here. Firstly, the Black Elk Speaks book was not written by Black Elk, it was written by John G. Neihart. So it's a synthesized version of Black Elk's account. So you can think of it kind of like the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies versus Tolkien's books. It does an excellent job of giving us the essence of the source material, but in so doing, it leaves out a lot of detail. So most of the analysis in this video I'm going to provide is largely based off of the book The Sixth Grandfather, which contains the original transcripts. The second thing to note is that Black Elk's account was given in the Lakota language and then interpreted into English. So even in the transcripts, it's hard to know what is really being said at certain points. Lastly, Black Elk became a Christian later on in his life. He was a devout Catholic catechist, so he spent a lot of his time trying to convert people to the Christian faith. So it's hard to tell how much of his newfound religion played a part in interpreting his great vision when he was just a boy. This episode of Realm Travel is brought to you by Compadre. Love every walk. If you have a dog that's a really strong and willful puller on the leash, then you won't after trying this. Because Compadre, the makers of the patented no-pull solution, have created a humane harness and leash system to help train against pulling and lunging behaviors. Compadre believes that you don't have to hurt a dog or break their beautiful spirit in order to get them to be good citizens on a leash. Gentle corrections around the strongest part of a dog's anatomy, the chest, means that you can guide and train your dog without using painful pinch collars, e-collars, or choke chains. This system helps you to gain your dog's attention and lead them to walk calmly beside you. And if you use promo code JPT2025, you can get 10% off your order. So if you want to see why dog trainers, pet owners, and vets absolutely love Compadre, then visit compadre.com. That's COMPAWDRE.com. And don't forget to use the promo code JPT2025 to get 10% off of your order. Thank you. With all the context, background, and caveats out of the way, now we can finally get to the absolutely wild ride that is the 12-day vision of Black Elk. Black Elk was eating with a man named Manhip, who invited him for supper. Then he heard a voice say, "It is time. Now they are calling you." Black Elk took this as a sign of being called by the spirits and thought he should go where they wanted him to. When he exited the teepee where he was eating, both of his thighs began to hurt. The next morning, they all broke camp and Black Elk was on his horse. When they stopped by a creek to get a drink, Black Elk got off of his horse and crumbled down, helpless. He couldn't walk. He knew he was very sick and his entire body was swollen. Later on, he was resting in a teepee with his parents when he could see through the opening 2 men who he recognized from his vision before. It was the same 2 warriors with spears. They were coming from the clouds. "Hurry up, your grandfather is calling you." The 2 men began to go back up into the sky, and Black Elk followed them outside. A small cloud came down toward him. He got on this cloud, and it floated him away, following the 2 men. When he looked back, he saw his parents looking up at him, and he felt sorry that he was leaving them. Once he was in the clouds, Black Elk was shown a vision of a bay horse, and one of the men said, "Behold him, the horse who has 4 legs you shall see." And the horse said, "Behold me, my life history you shall see. Furthermore, behold them, those where the sun goes down, their lives' history you shall see." Then Black Elk looked to the west and saw 12 black horses. They had buffalo hoof necklaces on them, and all flying around them were birds. Black Elk was scared because there was thunder and lightning emanating from them. Then Black Elk looked to the north and saw 12 white horses with elk tooth necklaces, and they said, "Behold them, those who are where the white giant lives." Above these white horses, he saw white geese flying. Then when he looked to the east, he saw 12 sorrel horses appear. They had horns and eagles flying above them. He heard a voice saying, "Behold them, those where the sun shines continually." Finally, Black Elk turned to the south, and he saw 12 buckskin horses. They had horns, and they said, "Behold him, those where you always face." Then the first bay horse told Black Elk, "Your grandfathers are having a council. These shall take you, so take courage." Then all the horses went into formation, and the bay horse looked to the west and neighed, and there was a great cloud of horses that neighed back to the bay horse, and it sounded like thunder. Then the bay horse repeated this for each direction, calling to all the horses of the universe. Then the bay horse said, "Behold them, your horses come dancing." And he saw millions of horses circling all around him. Then Black Elk, the bay, and all of these horses started to move. And these millions and millions of horses turned into buffalo, elk, and all other kinds of animals and returned to their directions. Then the bay horse led Black Elk to a cloud under a rainbow gate. Sitting inside of a rainbow door were the 6 grandfathers, older than men could ever be, and Black Elk knew that he was looking at the powers of the world. One of the grandfathers told him, "Do not fear, come right in." Black Elk went through the rainbow door, and the horses cheered him on. First, the western grandfather spoke, saying, Your grandfathers all over the world and the earth are having a council, and there you were called, so here you are. Behold then those where the sun goes down, from thence they shall come, you shall see. From them you shall know the willpower of myself, for they shall take you to the center of the earth, and the nations of all kinds shall tremble. Behold where the sun shines continually, for they shall take you there. Then he showed Black Elk a wooden cup with water, saying, Take courage and be not afraid, for you will know him, and furthermore behold him who you shall represent. By representing him, you shall be very powerful on earth, in medicines and all powers. He is your spirit, and you are his body, and his name is Eagle Wing Stretches. Then Black Elk looked up and saw flames coming from the rainbow. The first grandfather gave him this wooden cup with water, and said, Behold, take this, and with this you shall be great. Then he gave him a bow and arrow, and said, Behold them. What I give you, you shall depend on, for you shall go against our enemies, and you shall be a great warrior. Then the western grandfather ran westward, and turned into a black horse. The other 5 grandfathers said, Behold him. And then the horse turned into an emaciated, poor-looking one. The northern grandfather rose, saying, Take this, and make haste. He held an herb towards Black Elk. He took this and held it towards the horse. And when he did so, the horse was made fat and healthy again. Behold the Mother Earth, for you shall create a nation, said the northern grandfather, commenting on Black Elk's action in healing this horse. Take courage and behold, for you shall represent the wing of the great giant that lives. Then this grandfather stood up and ran northward, and changed into a white goose. Then the black horses turned to thunder, and the white horses turned to geese. Behold then your grandfather, for they shall fly in circles from one end of the earth to the other, said the northern grandfather. In the transcript, Black Elk says that through this power of the north, I will make everybody cry as geese do when they go north in the spring, because the hardship is over. Now it was the eastern grandfather's turn to speak. Younger brother, take courage, for across the earth they shall take you. Behold them. He pointed to the morning star, and below the star there were 2 warriors flying. From them you shall have power. All the fowls of the universe, these he has wakened, and also he has wakened the beings on the earth. The grandfather held in his hand a peace pipe, with a spotted eagle outstretched on the handle. This eagle was moving. Behold this. For with this you shall walk across the earth. For with this whatever is sick on this earth you shall make well. Then he pointed to a man, who was solid red in color. Then the man lay down and rolled. And as he rolled, he changed into a buffalo. This red man buffalo turned to the east, and all the horses turned into buffalo as well. The southern grandfather now spoke. Younger brother, behold me. A nation's center of the earth I shall give you with the power of the 4 quarters. With the power of the 4 quarters like relatives you shall walk. Behold the 4 quarters. The southern grandfather had a stick in his hand. With this to the nation's center of the earth many you shall have. When Black Elk looked at the stick, he saw it was sprouting at the top, and at the top were all kinds of birds singing. With this you shall brace yourself as a cane, and thus your nations shall brace themselves with this as a cane, and upon this cane you shall make a nation. Behold the earth, for across it there are 2 roads. Then the grandfather pointed to the road going south to north. This sacred road shall be your nation. From this road you shall receive good. Then the grandfather pointed to the other road going from east to west, the black road. Behold the black road, for it is the road of the thunder beings, the road of fearfulness. Behold the earth, with 4 ascents you shall walk. Then the grandfather went to the south and rolled and turned into a horse, and rolled once more and became an elk. He then stood among the buckskin horses, and they turned into elk too. Speaking now was the 5th grandfather, the sky. Boy, I sent for you and you came. Behold me, my power you shall see. He outstretched his hands and turned into a spotted eagle. Behold them, the fowls of the universe shall come to you. Things in the sky shall be like relatives. They shall take you across the earth with my power. Your grandfathers shall attack an enemy and be unable to destroy him, but you will have the power to destroy. You shall go with courage. This is all." And the eagle flew over Black Elk's head, and all the animals came to him. At last spoke the sixth grandfather. "Boy, take courage. You wanted my power on earth, so you shall know me. You shall have my power in going back to the earth, so you shall know me. Your nation on earth shall have great difficulties. There you shall go. Behold, for I will depart." The sixth grandfather was a very old man with white hair, but as Black Elk took a closer look at him, he realized that he was looking at himself. And this grandfather became younger and younger until he was just a little 9-year-old boy. Now Black Elk was on his bay horse, facing the west, on the Black Road, and all the horses stood behind him in ranks of 12. He was on Pike's Peak, and he noticed that everything on earth was trembling with fear. He was now the chief of the heavens, and his riders were covered in hail. He looked down into the forks of the Missouri River and saw a man standing amid a flame with dust around him in the air. And around him were all kinds of dying creatures which he had destroyed. So Black Elk and the riders charged, and as Black Elk approached, something in the water splashed. It was startled and scared by Black Elk. The 12 riders attacked the flaming enemy, but to no avail. He drove them back. Then Black Elk saw a man painted in blue coming out of the water. The horses told Black Elk, "Eagle wing stretches, make haste, for your nation all over the universe is in fear. Make haste." Black Elk's bow and arrow turned into a spear, and he charged this blue painted man and stabbed him in the heart. Lightning emanated from his spear when it hit the man. The man turned into a turtle, and all the dying creatures came back to life and cheered for Black Elk. Now Black Elk and the riders walked the sacred road from south to north. They were traveling on the Missouri River and saw a camp in the distance. A voice said, "Behold that nation, yours it is." Black Elk took the flowering stick and went to one of the teepees in the village. He saw men, women, and children all dying. He saw a man whose body was turning gray and red flames were coming out of his mouth. The southern spirit said, "Behold them and make haste." Then with the flowering stick, Black Elk passed by this village, and all the people got up. The spirit said, "That's the way you shall save men." Then Black Elk went to the middle of this village, and the southern spirit told him, "Give your people the sacred pipe and also the flowering stick." When Black Elk presented it to the people, they all rejoiced. "Your nation shall walk that red road toward where the giant lives." The northern grandfather said, "Give your sacred herb to your people, and also give them your sacred wind, so that they shall face the wind with courage. Also they shall walk as a relative of your wind. Behold your people, for they shall break camp and go forth. Behold them." 4 riders from each corner of the earth came and gave Black Elk a hoop, which represented the prosperity of the nation. In the transcript, Black Elk says he was to raise a nation either in prosperity or in difficulty. In presenting the sacred hoop, the spirit from the west said, "Behold the sacred hoop. It is the people you shall have." In his left hand the spirit held the hoop, and in his right he held the bow and arrow. He said, "You shall have this nation, and with this bow and arrow on earth, your worst enemy you shall conquer." Then he held this wooden cup of water and said, "With this the wildest enemies will be tame." At this point in the transcript, Black Elk says this, "I could capture anything without being hurt. With that bow and arrow, my people should be able to do the same things as I can." They used that on Custer, and there wasn't one of them who did not have an arrow in his skin. This worked in the Custer fight very well. The thunder beings have the power to kill, and the water the power to heal. We could depend on the water to live on, and the lightning to kill with. From this water all the herbs grow. Water is the great power. The water in the wooden cup represented a big lake. When I was conquering the spirit at the head of the Missouri River, I was getting power from the water. I was killing drought, and also I could bring my people out of any difficulty that they may have. At this point in the transcript, it is very difficult to figure out what is being said. There is clearly some sort of lost in translation situation going on. This part of the vision does seem to be centered around 4 ascents, which one of the grandfathers told Black Elk beforehand. And at this point in the transcript, Black Elk has the impression that as he tells his story, he is giving his power away and that he will soon pass away, but that his dream is coming true. The first and the second ascents were both good, and the third is to be a fearful thing, and perhaps we're in that time now. Something is going to happen. Black Elk thought that in the third ascent, people were going to transform themselves into all kinds of beasts. He knew that something was going to happen in World War I and didn't let his son join the war, even though he wanted to. Back in the vision, the southern spirit said, "Behold, you shall prevent the making of the clouds." And Black Elk later interpreted this statement to the encroachment of the white people on the Lakota. "Behold your nation they have given you, for they shall be like unto the animals and the fowls. Thus they shall walk." Then the people of the nation turned into birds, buffalo, and elk, and walked along the good road north. This nation was walking in a sacred manner, and the southern spirit said, "Behold your nation walking in a sacred manner, from thence they shall walk in difficulty. Now you shall go forth to the center of the nation's hoop." It's a good thing that Black Elk adds so many notes to this part of the vision because it is very confusing. But he does say this: "The white men couldn't get along with us, and they did not look after us. The birds and other animals are the only race that we really get along with. We and the beings on this earth, the buffalo, elk, and birds of the air, they are just like relatives to us, and we get along fine with them. For we get our power from them, and from them we live. The white people came on this continent and put us Indians in a fence, and then they put another fence somewhere else and put our game into it. When the buffalo and elk are all gone, the Great Spirit will look upon the whites for this, and perhaps something will happen." Now that Black Elk had all the items given to him by the spirits, the southern spirit said, "Behold your grandfathers who have given you the sacred relics. Wherever you look upon an enemy, it shall tremble. Remember this, for from this the people shall have strength and power. Look upon your nation." And then all the people who were now beasts were all very sick. Black Elk could hear women and children wailing, and all their horses were starving. But in the distance, Black Elk looked and saw a man standing in the north, painted red, and carrying a spear. He walked to the center of the sacred nation's hoop and rolled on the ground, turning into a buffalo. And where he got up, there was an herb growing from the ground. It bloomed, and Black Elk saw what it looked like. The people began to look better, and also got up, looking healed. The horses got up, and also looked healed. And the northern wind came as a spirit, and it swept over the village and revived all the sick and dying. The southern spirit spoke, "Behold, you have seen the powers of the north in the forms of man, buffalo, herb, and wind. The people shall follow the man's steps. Like him they shall walk, and like the buffalo they shall live, and with this herb they shall have knowledge. They shall be like relatives to the wind." Then Black Elk looked up and saw the spotted eagle with the pipe flying to the center of the nation's hoop. "With this your nation's offering as they walk, they shall be like unto him. With the pipe they shall have peace in everything. Behold your eagle, for your nation like relatives they shall be. Behold the morning star, relative-like they shall be, from whence they shall have wisdom." Then the morning star appeared, and the horses and dogs neighed and barked. Then the flowering stick was now back in the middle of the nation's hoop once more, and the southern spirit continued, "Behold the circle of the sacred hoop, for the people shall be like unto it, and if they are like unto this, they shall have power, because there is no end to this hoop, and in the center of the hoop these shall raise their children." The birds, people, and all the animals sang together and rejoiced. The men of the village said, "Behold it! From there we shall multiply, for it is the greatest of the greatest sticks."
This stick will take care of the people, and at the same time it will multiply. We will live under it like chickens under the wing. We live under the flowering stick like under the wing of the hen. Depending on the sacred stick we shall walk, and it will always be with us. From this we will raise our children, and under the flowering stick we will communicate with our relatives, beast and bird, as one people. This is the center of the life of the nation. Now Black Elk found himself again on his bay horse. He saw the people were getting ready for a storm and bracing themselves for it. The storm cloud rained on the people in the nation and christened them with water. Black Elk gave all of his relics to the people except the bow and arrow. Now the Western Spirit spoke. Behold, where the sun goes down, you shall walk. Everything that lacks strength you shall make over as you walk. Black Elk led the army of the horses to the west. They were riding on the clouds. But in the distance he saw a flame coming up from the earth. He went around the flame and could hear the crashing of thunder and lightning. He swooped down on his cloud, firing lightning arrows at the flaming enemy. When this enemy was bested, he could now see it was a dog with a strange color, one side white and the other black. The Western Spirit bade Black Elk to heal another horse like before, with an herb given to him. When Black Elk made a circular motion with the herb over this sick horse, it transformed him into a stallion with a mane of clouds. Then the horse neighed dust out of his nose, and millions of horses came out of it. He did this and made horses in all 4 directions. Behold them, for these are your horses. Your horses shall come neighing to you, said the Western Spirit. Your horses shall dance, and you shall see. Behold them, all over the universe you have finished. Then appeared before Black Elk 4 beautiful virgins, standing there dressed in red. One of the virgins held the sacred pipe. Behold your virgins all over the universe. Through them the earth shall be happy. From all over the universe they are coming to see them. The horse that he had healed began to sing, and the horse's voice went all over the universe like a radio, and everyone heard it. It was more beautiful than anything could ever be. The fowls, beasts, and every living thing heard this song. The birds, horses, tree leaves, and everything in the universe danced to the music of the horse's song. It was so beautiful that they just couldn't help dancing. Then the horse spoke, saying, all over the universe everything is finished, and your nation of nations is rejoicing. Black Elk says that in the vision he was representing the earth, and everything was giving him power. He was given power so that all creatures on earth could be happy. At the end of the 4th ascent, he could see the horses all going back to their homes. The day was beautiful and green, and the birds and all of the things were singing. Even the creeks sang as they flowed happily along. The deer and the buffalo were leaping and running. The country was all beautiful. Fruit was growing up in abundance. The Western Spirit said, behold this day, for this day is yours. Take courage, for we shall take you to the center of the earth. Black Elk could see great mountains with rocks and forests on them. He could see colors of light flashing out of the mountains towards the 4 quarters. Then the spirits took him on top of a high mountain where he could see all over the earth. 2 men came from the east with wings. On each one's breast had a bright star. They stood in front of Black Elk. Then the daybreak star stood between the 2 men. They gave Black Elk an herb, saying, behold this. With this on earth you shall undertake anything and accomplish it. They told him to drop it on earth. When he did, it took root and flowered. A ray of light came from the flower, leading to the heavens. The Western Spirit pointed to the people who were sick, saying, behold them who need help. You shall make them over in the future. He saw a white cloud over the people, which he interpreted later as the white people. Then the spirits showed Black Elk a flaming man all in black with horns. Everything was dying around him. The man turned into a gopher which stood on its hind legs and turned around. The gopher transformed into an herb. In the transcript, Black Elk notes that this is the most powerful herb he got, the power to destroy a nation. Then the horses and riders came and began fighting. Black Elk heard rapid gunfire and women and children wailing and the horses screaming in fear. When the fighting stopped, there was nothing left but skeletons. Later on in life, Black Elk reenacted his vision, bringing the powers given to him into the physical world. But interestingly enough, he did not reenact this part, and here is his reasoning. I was not old enough when I was supposed to use this herb, or else I could have used it and killed many enemies. It was too terrible to use, and I was glad that I did not get to use it. This herb is in the Black Hills. Every animal that nears it dies. Around where it grows, there are many skeletons always. This medicine belongs only to me. No one else knows what this herb looks like. I call this herb a soldier weed. I am glad that I did not perform this killing, for I would not have only killed the enemy, but I would have probably killed the women and children of the enemy. But I am satisfied that I have not been well off. Perhaps I would have been a chief if I had obeyed this, but I am satisfied, I didn't become a chief. After this, Black Elk noticed he was now returning to the Rainbow Gate and saw the grandfather sitting there. He could see he was returning to the cloud house of the first grandfather. The northern grandfather said, "Grandson, all around the universe you have seen the powers, and for what you have done, your people rejoiced. You have given the men of earth the power they have given you, and with courage they are facing the wind. Hundreds shall be sacred. Hundreds shall be flames." The northern grandfather put butterfly cocoons into Black Elk's arms, a red on the right wrist and a brown one on the left. All over the universe, all your grandfathers, the two-leggeds and on earth walking, the day flyers, they have had a council and appointed you, and have given you their power. Now you shall go forth to the place from whence you came. Your people are in great difficulty. Black Elk looked and saw that all the animals were his own people, and they were all happy except one who was very sick. When he looked closer, he could see it was himself. He had been sick for 12 days. The second grandfather made him drink a cup of water. Then each grandfather spoke, and as they did so, Black Elk was closer to the earth. The grandfathers told him they would watch all over him. They gave him an eagle and told him this eagle would always be over him. "Behold, the rainbow of your grandfathers shall be set where the sun shines continually. Your grandfathers have given you a good 12 days of happiness, and you shall have 12 sacred days. A day is happening, and behold its face as you come forth. It is so. Your grandfathers shall go forth. You shall lead them. The living creatures of the earth's generations walk together as relatives." At this point in the transcript, Black Elk says this: "When they showed me the star, it was daybreak, and then the sun came up, and after it appeared, they told me to go forth, and I stood outside the rainbow teepee, and this was the happiest moment of my vision. I looked to the four quarters of the earth, and I saw all the riders. There were colors and lightning in the west, and I saw black horses. In the north, there were all kinds of birds flying and all different colors of horses. The same was true of the east. All sorts of horses started to mill around, and in the south, the buckskins were milling around. On earth, the animals all rejoiced in happiness. When Black Elk came out of the teepee, the sixth grandfather was gone, and he stood in his place. Then the eagle escorted Black Elk back to his own teepee. He could see it in the distance, and he walked fast to get there. As he entered the teepee, he saw a boy lying there dying, and he stood there a while before realizing it was himself. Then he could hear voices saying, 'The boy is feeling better now. You'd better give him some water.' He looked up and saw it was his mother and father standing over him. They were giving him medicine, but Black Elk knew it wasn't this that cured him. It was his vision. They hadn't seemed to notice that he had been traveling, and they didn't look glad. This made Black Elk very sad.
When I first read this great vision, I was so emotionally moved and fascinated by the impressiveness of it. The complicated nature of this vision from a 9-year-old boy is is beyond amazing. And if you're coming from this in a more skeptical point of view, where you think, maybe Black Elk in his later years put all of this together in his mind, it was actually when he was still a relatively young man that he sought the counsel of a man, funnily enough, named Black Road to talk about this vision. And normally, a thunder dreamer would have to enact a Heyoka ceremony, but Black Road was so impressed with Black Elk's great vision that he decided that Black Elk should do the horse dance. And this brings me to the aftermath and the corroborative evidence that comes along with this great vision. There is, of course, the story of Standing Bear, Black Elk's dear friend, who was 12 years old at the time of this great vision. And he distinctly remembers when Black Elk was sick for 12 days, and the entire village knew about it and sent for medicine. But miraculously, Black Elk came to, supposedly on the 12th day. Even Black Elk's father weighed in on the issue, saying, quote, "My boy was very sick all at once, and it was a strange sickness, and he was unconscious for 12 days, and it looked like he would not come to, and I prepared for it. But all of a sudden, he came to. But ever since, my boy hasn't been acting well. He has queer ways. He is not the boy he used to be." Standing Bear also noted that when he visited Black Elk after he was well again, he felt like Black Elk was more of a man than a boy now. And Black Elk himself began to feel isolated from his other people. He felt like he didn't belong. He felt like he couldn't even hunt anymore because he was supposed to be a relative of these other beings. But there was a moment where he did hunt and kill a frog. And he went over to the frog's dead body, picked it up, and thought, "Oh no, I've killed him now." And this gave him a strange feeling like he wasn't walking on the ground. There was also a medicine man who was caring for Black Elk while he was unconscious for those 12 days. And this medicine man told Black Elk's father this, quote, "Your son there is sitting in a sacred manner. I can see that there is a special duty for him to do. Just as he came in, I could see the power of lightning all through his body."
Another personal observation I had and can't help but say out loud is that in Black Elk's vision, he says that a small cloud came down and acted as this little platform to which he got onto, and it brought him into the heavens. And when I had retired Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch on my podcast, he described to me how one of his abduction experiences began with a little, in his words, miniature hurricane that appeared over just him and his neighbor.
We both see this weird cloud, dark hole in the center that seems to be centered between our two houses. We look to the north, blue sky. We look to the south, blue sky. And yet right centered over us, this dark cloud. And instead of meeting in the middle to have a beer, or one of us goes to the other guy's house and, sits down and discusses the issues of the day and what was going on, right? We just shrug and go inside. And then again, it's early, I would say, early evening, late afternoon. So it's like 4 or 5 o'clock, same general time frame. And boom, the next thing you know, I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And closing with this sort of OCD behavior, closing the drapes, making sure there's not even the slightest little sliver of opening.
That similarity is very odd. I would be remiss to not say it. And on top of that, Dr. Blitch himself has some Lakota in his family lineage. Now, as I was editing this video, I came across something really interesting. I was reading this book called Encounters with Star People by Artie Sixkiller Clarke, and it's a collection of American Indian UFO stories. And in one of the chapters, they mention that Black Elk had his own UFO experience. However, they do seem to be conflating Nicholas Black Elk, the subject of our video today, with Wallace Black Elk, who is a completely different person altogether. But they do say that Wallace was visiting his cousin Benjamin Black Elk, who is the son of Nicholas Black Elk. Wallace does report that one of his mentors in shamanism
was Nicholas Black Elk. And in the book Encounters with Star People, it is rumored that Nicholas Black Elk's family was on the porch during this event and saw the whole thing. After a bit of research, I finally tracked down where this UFO encounter is from, and it led me to a book called Black Elk: The Sacred Ways of a Lakota by Wallace Black Elk and William S. Lyon. And sure enough, in chapter 6, Wallace Black Elk details a close encounter of the third kind. So when I went to Vision Quest, that disc came from above. The scientists call that a UFO, unidentified flying object, but that's a joke, see? Because they're not trained. They lost contact with the wisdom, knowledge, power, and gift. So they have to see everything first with their naked eye. They have to catch one first. They have to shoot it down and then see what all it is made of, how it was shaped and formed. But their intention is wrong. So somebody is misleading those scientists that way. So that disc landed on top of me. It was concave, and there was another one on top of that. It was silent, but it lit and luminesced the whole place. It was dark, but those trees in front of me were luminesced like neon lights. Even the sacred robes were luminesced, and those tobacco ties lying there lit up like little light bulbs. Then these little people came, but each little group spoke a different language. They could read minds, and I could read their minds. I could read them. So there was a silent communication. You could read it silent, like when you read silent symbols in a book. So we were able to communicate. They are human, so I welcomed them. I said, "Welcome, welcome. Hi, UFOs." They laughed at that because they knew I was joking with them. So when you call them UFO, it's like saying they are foreign or unknown. So they thought that was a funny joke, so they laughed because they are human too. They liked that one. But the biggest joke is on those scientists, because they lost contact with those Star Nation people. When they see one of those little objects, they call it a UFO. They also have scientists who are hired to cover up the truth about those UFOs. They make up false explanations, like it was just some gas coming out of a lake or like that. But this one scientist, he told the truth, so they fired him from that job. Anyway, those little people laughed when I called them UFOs, but the one that stood in front of them, he was dead serious. He never cracked a smile. It seemed to me he never even blinked his eyes. I got scared looking at his face and eyes. It gave me a spooky feeling. I had goose pimples down my arms and back and down to my legs. I felt like a little screen, like he could see right through me. It felt like a radar was going right through me. Then I started looking into his eyes. It was like a knothole. You know, if you have a pine board and a knot falls out, then there is a hole there. You only see a hole, but if you go close to that hole, you could see a vast area through that hole. That is the way I saw it in his eyes. So when I started looking into his eyes, it was like a little color TV. I could see a vast area back there. I could see everything in the universe through his eyes. What I saw in there scared me. I saw these jets in there flying in formation, and I could hear them. Then a light came on, and they simply evaporated. They were gone. Then I saw steel tanks in there. When that light came on, they disappeared. They sizzled and bubbled, like when you pour water on a hot grill. So I got scared. So where is our military power going to stand when that power comes? They are no match. Everything will just evaporate. So there is no way of matching Tunkashila's creation. It's impossible to challenge the Star Nation people. It is impossible. So I learned something from those little people. Now, Black Elk had many, many different visions in his lifetime, but to me the most fascinating one that adds corroborative details to it is when he was in Europe, because he was touring with the Buffalo Bill Wild West show, and when he was in Paris, he had befriended a young woman and went to eat with her and her family. And he said that while he was eating, a cloud was coming through the ceiling and the floor was rising up. And this kept happening and happening until he was on this cloud. And the cloud floated him across the Atlantic Ocean until he was floating over his village back home. And when he looked down, he saw his mother looking back up at him. Then he was floated across the ocean again, and when he came to, he noticed that all the people he was having dinner with were amazed because to them, he had suddenly dropped dead while eating, and they had pronounced him dead and even made him a coffin. But then he miraculously came back to life. But many, many months later, when he traveled back in person to his home, his mother told him that she had had a dream where she looked up and saw him floating on a cloud. For me, I find it very difficult to just dismiss Black Elk's great vision, even if I wanted to, which I don't. I think it would be disrespectful to say that Black Elk didn't have this vision because it did impact him and his nation. Now, there's an excellent podcast, it's one of my favorites, called Hardcore History with Dan Carlin. He has this one episode where he's talking with his mentor about researching an ancient civilization. And his mentor says, when are you going to incorporate magic into this analysis? And Dan Carlin's like, but magic's not real. And his mentor said, you and I think that, but the people there, they didn't think that. They believed that magic was real, and they acted upon their lives with that belief that magic was real, and it affected their history. So going back to Black Elk, saying dualistically either it happened or it didn't is kind of beyond the point. When Black Elk did return from Europe, he saw how a new religion was spreading across the nations. There was a Paiute Messiah who had a vision of his own, of a world renewed and without the damage that the white man had done to them. And when Black Elk investigated this and its ghost dance, he immediately saw parallels between this and his great vision, and he began to take part in it, with hopes that they could make their nation's sacred hoop flourish again. But tragically, the US government saw this as a threat and a sign of rebellion, and this led to the horrifying massacre at Wounded Knee, where over 100 Lakotas, including women and children, were slaughtered. And in the book Black Elk Speaks, the author John Neihart summarizes perfectly Black Elk's thoughts on this matter. When I look back now from this high hill of my old age, I can still see the butchered women and children lying heaped and scattered all along the crooked gulch, as plain as when I saw them with my eyes still young. And I can see that something else died there in the bloody mud and was buried in the blizzard. A people's dream died there. It was a beautiful dream. And I, to whom so great a vision was given in my youth, you see me now, a pitiful old man who has done nothing. For the nation's hoop is broken and scattered. There is no center any longer, and the sacred tree is dead. After Wounded Knee, understandably, many Lakotas had lost their faith entirely, but there are some glimmers of hope in here. At the end of the first day when John and Black Elk met, without barely even knowing John, Black Elk gave him a sacred ornament, saying this. This means Wakantanka. It also means that our thoughts should rise high as the eagles do. This means all the good things of this world, food and shelter. My friend, I wish you all these things. Put it around your neck. And before John left, Black Elk told him this. There is so much to teach you. What I know was given to me from men, and it is true, and it is beautiful. Soon I shall be under the grass, and it will be lost. You were sent to save it, and you must come back so that I can teach you. Black Elk knew he was nearing the end of his life, and as he and his friends overlooked the Badlands together, he asked for one final favor. There, when I was young, the spirits took me in my vision to the center of the earth and showed me all the good things in the sacred hoop of the world. I wish I could stand up there in the flesh before I die, for there is something I want to say to the grandfathers. So his friends and family took him. There was this place called Harney Peak, and Black Elk stood at the top in his traditional clothing, saying this. Again, and maybe the last time on this earth, I recall the great vision you sent me. It may be that some little root of the sacred tree still lives. Nourish it then, that it may leaf and bloom and fill with singing birds. Hear me, not for myself, but for my people. I am old. Hear me, that they may once again go back into the sacred hoop and find the good red road, the shielding tree. At this point, John Neihart noted that a low thunder began to rumble in the distance and a chill rain fell on them. He noticed that Black Elk was crying and chanting, saying this: "In sorrow I am sending a feeble voice, O six powers of the world, hear me in my sorrow, for I may never call again. O make my people live." I will say this, I don't believe that Black Elk's great vision is dead. I think we have and have always had the power to decide whether we want his dream to stay with him under the grass or take it out and let it bloom and help our nations flourish by respecting the sacredness of every single thing. If you think about it, you will see that it is true. Thank you.